There are a few signs that always show up before a marriage dies, and over 90% of people miss them completely. Don't be one of them. You see, when the marriage ends, whether it's separation or divorce, it's usually not because of something explosive like an affair or abuse, although those are definitely on the list of deal breakers as well. But most of the time, it's the slow, everyday fights, the constant tension over little things like the trash, dishes, parenting, the tone of voice. But it's also not really about those things. It's about feeling unheard over and over again, feeling blamed and criticized again and again, until one of you just gives up. And so in this video, I'm going to show you the 4 biggest signs that your marriage is already headed towards divorce and what you need to do right now if you want to stop it. The first biggest sign is that you are in the loop of doom cycle. So this is a stage in relationship that's way past the honeymoon stage, where relationships get real, where conflict starts to happen, where all the masks that you guys were wearing to just please each other start to fall off, and then all the fear and resentment and pain and all these difficult emotions start coming up to the surface. And there is a specific loop that you guys repeat over and over again. I'm going to break it down right now. So what we have right here is the relationship loop of doom. Let's just say that you are the partner on the right here, and your partner is right here on the left. And so let's just say that your partner, for whatever reason, is triggered, stressed, having a bad time. Life is hard, it happens to us, and he is feeling not enough, unworthy, inadequate. Perhaps he's feeling unsafe, right? Stressed out. And perhaps maybe he's feeling guilt or shame, right? Either way, he may be feeling one or multiple of these different feelings, right? And we'll soon learn enough that these are childhood wounds, but either way, he feels these feelings. And what happens is that he's going to do what's called a coping mechanism to deal with that pain. He's going to go right down here, and he's going to do things like shutting down, stonewalling, right? He gets very quiet. He starts to turtle up. He might do things like distract himself. So he's also playing video games, watching sports, maybe just overworking. He's just distracting himself with entertainment, work, friends, all kinds of different things, right? Distractions. And also avoiding and isolating too. So like alone time is that turtling up that's happening inside him. And guess what that's going to do? Because in his attempt to soothe these pains over here, what it's going to do instead is perfectly touch his partner's wounds. And she's going to start to feel alone, start to feel unseen, feeling unheard. Whatever it is, these are just some examples. It touches those feelings. He is not trying to do that, but it's going to have that effect regardless. And as soon as it does that, guess what's going to happen? You bet she also is going to cope with that feelings unconsciously. And guess what she's going to do? She might criticize, she might get emotional, she might get controlling and manipulative, and she just might get louder overall in an attempt to simply try to soothe these pains here, right? And what is that going to do instead? Yes, you should understand the pattern that's happening now is that it's going to, of course, touch his wounds even more, his fears, his uncomfortable feelings. He's going to feel more not enough, more unsafe, more shamed and guilted. This is not the intention of the partner to do that. She's just trying to cope with this pain. She's coping with this pain here, but it's doing this instead, causing him more pain. Okay, so he feels this more pain. Of course, keep following the diagram. Going to cope some more of that, isn't he? And that's going to continue to push her buttons and trigger her even more. And it's going to keep going on and on. And so if you follow this very carefully, I'm going to clean this up a bit here. You're going to see that what happens is it becomes this sort of infinite loop of doom. Can you see it? Have you lived it over and over again? Where the very thing that they try to do, right, their coping mechanism to deal with this unconscious emotional stress, childhood trauma or wounds, right? This old stuff right here that is very old. It does the opposite. By coping, they get their partner to do the very thing that they hate, right? They're doing it to each other. And the more that they do it, eventually it builds up into a big argument and never really gets resolved, gets swept under the rug, and it happens again. The loop happens again and again and again over the dishes, over the kids, over work. Fill in the blank. It sparks this loop over and over, right? So this is the relationship loop of doom, and this can happen repetitively for a very long time. I'm talking like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I work with clients very often. They've been 20 years in their marriage doing this loop over and over again, right? So it's not fun. It's very excruciatingly painful, very sticky, and it feels almost impossible to get out of it. But there is a way. We'll talk more about that later. So we're still on sign number 1, the loop of doom. And what we have to understand, and I imagine you might be thinking about this right now, it's like, why do we do this? Why are we in a partnership or a relationship where we're doing this to each other? We're not trying to hurt each other, but we're just doing it unconsciously. But the more we try to protect ourselves, to soothe our fears, the more we hurt the other person. Crazy, right? So it's not crazy, actually. You have to start to get curious about why you are the way you are. You have parents, mom and dad, caregivers at the very least, right? And from what you learned from your parents and how they interacted with you started to develop your behaviors, your traits, your attachment style. One person, let's say the husband, for example, grows up in an environment that forces him to develop an avoidant attachment style. So he avoids conflict, he avoids being vulnerable, he avoids emotions because of how he grew up. And so the other partner, on the other hand, learned to get louder, to be heard, to get more emotional, to get a crumb of attention. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens. For the person here, maybe it's like, again, unworthiness, a critical, controlling mother, and so on. For the partner, it might be a neglectful, absent father, right? Just oversimplifying it, but those are examples. And perhaps the partner, the wife, reminds him of his mother. And the husband reminds her, the wife, of the father. It is typical and really unavoidable that we marry the dysfunction of our childhood because it's familiar, because it's all we've known. And so we unconsciously gravitate towards the types of people with personalities and energies that remind us of our father. It's not always perfectly switched based on gender. Sometimes the wife might be attracted to a man that reminds her of her mother. It's usually typically the person that wounded them the most, but it's not always the case, right? So either way, it's not really specific to mother, father. Regardless, there's going to be traits that your partner matches with your parents. Sometimes it's a mix of both. Sometimes it's more your father, more your mother. It doesn't matter. Either way, you're recreating what is familiar, which is your childhood environment, with the perfect partner to recreate that with, and thus create that loop of doom over and over again until you do the right work to break that cycle. And really it's a generational cycle that's been happening from generation to generation, okay? And I have so many videos that go deeper on the loop of doom. But for this video, we're gonna go into sign number 2, right? The second sign that your marriage is over or headed towards divorce, and that is growth is not one of your top 3 values for either of you. And I tell my clients this all the time, that you either grow together or you grow apart. And as you can tell from how difficult the loop of doom is that I described, it requires massive commitment to growing, to make it a top value, to change as a person, to overcome these patterns. Because either you grow as a person to overcome the pattern, or you just repeat the pattern again and again. And this marriage or the next relationship it will not stop until you start to grow and heal as a person. So what does it mean to value growth? It means you're the kind of person that reflects on yourself. You get curious to challenge your fears. You're open to changing behavior. You're open to challenging beliefs. It's those kind of traits that you have to have, or at least develop and be open to make changes. Because keep this in mind, if you don't value growth, there's no way in hell that you'll get out of the loop of doom. You'll just simply repeat it over and over again. And I imagine you don't want to do that, whether it's to save this relationship and stop the cycle, or not repeat it in the next relationship. So with that said, let's move on to sign number 3. You are stuck in victim consciousness. That means very simply that you keep pointing the finger at them, what they did, what they're not doing right. But when's the last time you sat down and explored and really examined how you show up? Your tone of voice, when you shut down, when you withdraw, when you pull away. Maybe you're the partner and you're the one that's loud, aggressive, critical, right? Controlling. One person's the more passive one, the other person is the more aggressive one. When have you sat down to really reflect on why you are doing those things? The fears that are driving the passivity or the aggression. Don't be so quick to point the finger at what they did wrong and feel justified in it. That will keep you in the loop of doom. And so you have to get out of victim consciousness. And I know how powerful the ego is. It loves to convince the hell out of you. It's so smart at convincing us that they're the problem. You know, maybe you're just 20% of it, but they're 80 or 90% of the problem. They need to change. That kind of thinking will keep you absolutely stuck, and guaranteed your relationship will end in divorce, and even another divorce if this one fails, right? It'd be one failed relationship after the next. And when you get out of victim consciousness, you're able to change and heal as a person, to grow as a person. And healing really means that you own your triggers and transforming how you show up, not just demanding that they walk on eggshells or that you become the perpetual people pleaser to please them. That's not going to work either, because then you're just going to have ongoing resentment, and that resentment is going to come out. You know, and the victim consciousness is so strong, and I see it with clients all the time, where one person wants the relationship to change but refuses to change how they relate. They want the relationship to change, but they don't want to change how they are actually affecting the relationship. That's not partnership, that's projection. Now, all that is to say that no, it's not all 100% your fault fault either. It takes two people to make a relationship succeed or fail. So I'm not saying to blame yourself for everything. You are just as responsible for the relationship as they are. You both made it what it is today. So let's move on to sign number 4. You're waiting for the other person to change. Same thing with the victim consciousness. You might be thinking that once they go to therapy or they work on themselves and change, that we will finally be good. Or only if they just communicate better, things are going to be okay. Or I just need them to be less sensitive, less defensive, more available. I'm telling you to stop that, because that mindset keeps you stuck in powerlessness. It will keep you in that relationship loop of doom I mentioned earlier, and you're dooming yourself to handing the quality of the relationship on their timeline. And that timeline will always be way slower than if you were to just take action now. And I get it, it's scary, right? It's scary to take the first step. It's much easier to want them to start first, or only to start if they start with you. But if both of you are waiting for each other to change, well, obviously nothing changes. And I've worked with individuals who have radically changed their relationship by doing their healing first, regardless of what their partner does. Because when one person shifts, the relationship has to shift. It cannot stay the same if one person is changing. Now, it doesn't guarantee that the marriage will survive, but does give it a real shot. And at the very least, you won't stay stuck in these patterns. You won't stay stuck with these emotional wounds from childhood, and you sure as hell don't have to repeat it in the next relationship. So do the work now. Now, if any of those signs I just mentioned out of the 4, if any of that resonates with you, if any of that matches with you, it's a sign to start doing the work immediately. It's a sign that you can actually change, that it doesn't have to end in divorce. You can at least begin the process of changing. And how you do so is, number 1, is start making growth your top priority. Growth and change starts right now. It's time to change as a person. Stop waiting for other people to save you, or change so that you can give yourself permission to change. Take the first step with or without your partner. Now, what does that work actually mean, right? Maybe you're already on board. You're like, yeah, let's do the work. What does it take to change? It starts very simply by beginning a deep journey of retraining your nervous system out of constant survival, so that it can start releasing old childhood traumas and start feeling safe. Because that's what's happening when you're in the loop of doom and you're fighting and there's resentment. You're literally in a state of fight or flight. You're hurt and you're scared. Your nervous system has completely hijacked you. You're in your head, and your mind is going to old thoughts and beliefs, right? Because the emotions are up there. You have to retrain your nervous system to work through those difficult emotions, as opposed to react and do what you've always done before. You will also have to start building a relationship with your subconscious and your emotions, and that's going to be your inner child. It's that little girl or little boy that felt abandoned, that felt rejected, that didn't feel good enough, that felt unsafe and unprotected. That part of you that experienced it when you're growing up, 5, 7, 10 years old, whatever, at those different ages, that's still frozen inside you. It's still frozen in your subconscious. It's still frozen in your nervous system. And whenever your partner does something that you don't like, it activates that old wound. That has to be reparented. There's a reparenting of that part. It's subconscious work, but it's a reparenting of those aspects of yourself. And all of that will be very unfamiliar to you on what to do with those feelings that come up, because you never learned how. It can be by simply getting out of victimhood and owning your emotions instead of making your emotional experience someone else's fault or responsibility. And most important of all, it's by learning how to properly feel your emotions instead of reacting to people, shutting down, or getting stuck in your head about it. And I say this over and over to people, that the body that knows how to heal physically knows how to heal emotionally, and knows how to work through the emotions to feel it, release it, feel it, release it. And at the end of the day, the moment you start building a healthier relationship with yourself, your fears, your beliefs, your emotions, don't be surprised when you start to also be able to do it with your relationship and your partner, and it starts to turn the marriage around. So to recap, most marriages don't collapse suddenly. They dissolve, they break apart through years of avoidance, disconnection, unresolved conflict, and childhood trauma that's been denied and ignored. Now, if you saw yourself in some of these signs, it's not too late, but it will be if you just don't do anything. It will be if you don't make growth your priority and you keep blaming them and you're not aware of the loop of doom and how to work through that. It's time to take action, and it can be very simple, right? Learn to connect to your emotions, learn to work through your nervous system. Now, all that work can be explained in another video, a very long one, but this is also the work that I guide clients through, right? It's a very deep process of transformation that you will have to go through, whether it's with me or whoever. You have to go through a journey of deep transformation. That means meeting and facing and processing all these painful emotions and parts of yourself that have never been dealt with. And now, as painful as your relationship, your marriage is, it's now putting you in this place where you get the opportunity to unpack and fundamentally change as a person. And even if the marriage doesn't work out, because maybe you value growth when you're doing the work and your partner is not, and you grow apart and it doesn't work out, you would have become the work that you've done. You would have become a better person as a result of it. And that you get to carry into your other relationships and carry with yourself for the rest of your life. If you want to learn more about relationships, healing, trauma, inner child wounds, and all those good things. So now there's two quick options. Either you go to the link below to apply if you want to work with me to start doing some work together, or watch the next video to learn more about relationships and trauma, healing, and all these different dynamics for free.